Efron, Professor Stephen Kepnes, Professor Lois Zoloff, and the first speaker is Noach Efron, and all the three are part of our international committee of Maayan Institute, so thank you so much for all of you. So it is a great honor for me to welcome Noach Efron, a friend of mine and professor of science, technology, and society at Bar-Ilan University, and one of Israel's leading voices in dialogue between science, religion, and public life. Professor Efron has devoted much of his scholarly career to exploring the complex relationship between scientific knowledge, technological change, religious tradition, and social responsibility. And if you want to read one of his very important publication, is the book A Chosen Calling, Jews in Science in the 20th Century, a widely acclaimed study of relationship between Jewish culture and scientific creativity. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and congratulations on this really remarkable, amazing gathering. It makes me so happy to see. That was a much nicer introduction than the one that I sent you to make. But what I would add that will become clear, perhaps, is that I've spent a lot of the last little while having gotten myself elected to the City Council of Tel-Aviv-Jaffa, where I have administrative responsibility for environment, sustainability, urban nature, animals, energy, and religious pluralism. And this talk comes from my thoughts about my work there for the most part. Does anybody? No, forget it. It is common to start lectures of this sort that I have just started this moment with an observation that a certain sort of Zionist ethos, a prominent Zionist ethos, is broadly at odds with a deep respect for the nature around us. A proof text that is commonly brought for this observation is a poem called Shir HaBoker, morning poem, by the great Tel Aviv poet Natan Levy, who lived for a long while just 6 houses up from where I live today. On Nordo Boulevard, there is a plaque. And the poem was set to music in Berlin by Daniel Sambursky, and it appeared in the first talking picture ever made about Palestine, L'Chaim Chadashim, a love song to high modernist Zionism. And it goes in part, we will dress you up in a robe of concrete and cement and spread for you carpets of gardens upon the redeemed soil of your fields. Joyous pealings of bells will chime. Here's what it sounds like, a little bit of it set to Sambursky's hortatory music. Now, the celebration of dressing the land with cement and concrete reflects a delirious high modernist engineering ethos, and one does not just find this in exuberant poetry. One finds this engineering ethos in plenty of policy, as when in the 1950s a decision was taken to channelize the Ayalon River that runs north-south through Tel Aviv, and essentially to cap it and replace it with a highway, a plan advocated first in 1949 by Tel Aviv's municipal engineer, Yaakov Ben Sira, after a fact-finding mission to Los Angeles and New York, where Ben Sira met and was mightily impressed by Robert Moses, returning inspired by the legendary New York planner, quote-unquote, by the New York planners, quote-unquote, constructive and creative spirit, heralding a new era in city building. After that, the Tel Aviv municipality hired the former city planner of Cleveland, Ohio, Aaron Horowitz was his name, to prepare a new master plan for the city, one that called for the rational redivision of the city into clearly defined areas of different functions. There would be the residential area, the central business district, the manufacture area, the entertainment area. And part of the plan that Horowitz came up with was at first to fully divert the Ayalon River, dumping it into the sea south of the city, never letting it get to Tel Aviv, doing away with the unwieldy thing that refused to flow in a T-square straight lines. And when doing away with the river entirely proved to be infeasible, the fallback plan was to cover up the river with a highway. And when that too proved to be infeasible, the decision was taken to channelize the river alongside a new T of highways, which is what you see here on the screen, south to north at the bottom and east to west at the top, which plan the leaders of the city enthusiastically implemented, which is how it came to pass that today the Ayalon is far less of a river than it is a highway, which is maybe enough to show that the observation that there was this Zionist ethos is not without basis, that a certain version of a Zionist ethos, a high-spirited, high-modernist engineering ethos, is and has long been broadly at odds with a deep respect for the nature around us. Still, that observation is at best only part of the story, overlooking as it does other currents and other attitudes and behaviors and other ways in which elements of a Zionist ethos and almost certainly as well older traditions of Jewish thought, practices, and ways of organizing our spiritual and social lives are somehow also present in environmental and sustainability policies one sees today in Tel-Aviv-Jaffa, and how to treat our shared spaces, how we understand other living things in the city, how we teach our kids to regard these things, and a great deal more as well. For one thing, environment and sustainability in Tel-Aviv-Jaffa are always consistently and insistently linked to the Jewish calendar, often in surprising ways. Intensive engagement on the part of the Tel-Aviv-Jaffa Authority for Environment and Sustainability with Jewish holidays is on evidence throughout the year, from the intensive cleanup in the month of Elul ahead of the high holidays to the concentrated collection of prunings and sharings, as well as junk that people may have collected in the old year, wishing to be rid of it before the start of the new year, all of this in Elul each year. And then ahead of the new year, the Environment and Sustainability Authority runs special programs like the one advertised here for a workshop to make, instead of buying New Year's cards, using old magazines to assemble collages, thereby giving new life and purpose to glossy, unrecyclable paper that might otherwise end up in the landfill. After that, it is back to an especially intensive cleanup ahead of Yom Kippur, a cleanup that involves a wash down of some of the roads themselves, which will be put to intensive use on Yom Kippur in a way that I will describe in just a minute. After that, there is Sukkot, which the city has made the center of Bicycle Month, and also the occasion for the annual Camping Near Home Festival, where kids and their parents pitch tents in urban parks and spend the night out ostensibly in nature. After that, there is the Hanukkah Nature Camp, where kids learn to make Hanukkah candles out of soy, jam for latkes from lemons that the kids pick themselves straight from the trees, and other such Chanukaniyana. The authority also puts out information on how, for traditional donuts, sufganiyot, olive oil is the oil to be used because it is locally sourced with a much smaller ecological footprint than other oils and also healthier. After that comes Tu B'Shvat, save for Yom Kippur, the holiday most alive with green symbols and meaning in the city. It being, by tradition, of course, the New Year's for the trees. A time for the Environment and Sustainability Authority to remind people that in the past, Jews who lived in the diaspora could not get fresh fruit from the land of Israel to eat on Tu B'Shvat. So instead they ate dried fruit. This custom was preserved and continued in the land as well, despite the bounty of fresh fruit available for us here. After which the Environment Authority describes the poor nutritional virtues of various dried fruit. And then concludes, quote, so what do we recommend? Prefer fresh fruit in their natural and complete form, as they have higher nutritional value and contribute better to a feeling of fullness. It is on Tu B'Shvat that the city has its biggest, though not its only, citizen planting initiative, where hundreds and hundreds of saplings, often of fruit trees, are given out to be planted in yards, with municipal experts consulting about irrigation and care. And then there is this, quote, Tu B'Shvat is much more than planting and eating dried fruit. It is the day that symbolizes nature that is awakening to life after the winter and starting to prepare itself for growth. So in honor of the holiday that best binds us to nature, join us in strengthening the ecosystem with all sorts of creative activities, plays, workshops, lectures, planting wildflowers, and picking the citrus fruit that now fill the trees. Come to borrow our fruit picker and share the bounty with your neighbors, end quote. In the ecological Tu B'Shvat Seder that they hold at Beit Daniel, the Reform shul across from the Yarkon River, there is what they call a vidui svivati, an environmental confession patterned on the vidui or confession said on Yom Kippur. This one going in part, we have shrouded your world in haze, smoke, and soot. We have squandered the treasures of nature that were entrusted to us for safekeeping. We have stolen the beauty of open skies through ugly construction. We have depleted the populations of wild animals through our negligence. We have violated the covenant of balance between humanity and nature, end quote. The city-supported queer youth movement, Iggy, posted this for Tu B'Shvat, quote, Tu B'Shvat is here, and we ask, what is more natural and healthy than Iggy's LGBTQ Beit Midrash for the holiday? After Tu B'Shvat comes Purim, which in Tel Aviv has become a celebration of non-consumption, as you will see from this announcement from the Environment and Sustainability Authority that goes, quote, like the Nachli Eli, the white wagtail bird, who is a harbinger of spring, so are Hamantashen, a harbinger of Purim. This year we will not buy costumes from distant countries. Who knows when they will get here and in what size? Instead, we will go to the costume and accessory exchange fairs that will take place in all the communal giving cupboards at all the community centers, the schools, the kindergartens, and the youth movements. Join us at the Costume Fix-It Bar for workshops to make healthy and sustainable mishloach manot, end quote. Mishloach manot being the gift packages of food that are, by tradition, exchanged on Purim, about which the city has a great deal to say about how to make them healthier and how to reduce their ecological footprint. As it does also about how, in celebration of the holiday, to repair and revivify old clothes instead of buying new. The text starts, quote, when the Hebrew month of Adar comes in, we are expansive in our joy and also in our repairs, end quote. And how and where to find used and repaired costumes from the Auto Beged, the quote-unquote clothes car that is the city's secondhand clothing shop on wheels. On Passover, the city does spring tours of urban nature run by local citizen volunteers. On Yom Ha'atzmaut, Independence Day, the municipality offers quote-unquote tips for an environmental barbecue, starting with not buying too much in the first place, making stew of old and tired vegetables instead of tossing them, avoiding disposable plates and flatware, and cleaning up after yourself so animals don't eat the trash you left behind. Then comes Lag BaOmer, which in recent years has been given over to persuading kids not to light traditional bonfires, which are unsafe and fill the air with toxins. So the Environment and Sustainability Authority offers alternatives that, quote unquote, preserve the quality of air and nature. Then on Shavuot, when the city reminds residents that, quote, the true meaning of the holiday is the end of the season of planting, growing, harvesting, and the enjoyment of the bounty given to us by nature. Now, Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv, as I do not need to tell you, is unlike any other day in any other place. On Yom Kippur in Tel-Aviv-Jaffa, as a matter of tradition and as the product of a sort of informal but powerfully effective social compact, cars, buses, and trucks, essentially any motorized vehicle with more than 3 wheels, do not operate. It's not the law, it is a tradition. As a matter of law, however, shops, restaurants, and entertainment spots are closed. There is no commerce on Yom Kippur. This state of affairs led 2 PhDs, Dr. Daniel Mishori, who teaches sustainability and geography at Tel-Aviv University, and Dr. Daniel Robinson, to coin the term Kippurtopia, a day upon which we voluntarily undertake what they call a transportation fast. They write in their canonical 2004 essay, Kippurtopia, Urban Environment Without Cars, quote, "On the eve of Yom Kippur, with the start of the Kol Nidre prayer, the world's biggest, greatest Reclaim the Streets party starts. All the different sorts of people take part, adults and children, women and men, those who fast and those who eat treif, heretics and penitents, bicycle riders and roller skaters, they are all together. People who keep traditions on their way to shul enjoy walking on Ibn Gvirol Street no less than the young women with bare midriffs do. A sort of childlike joy spreads among the citizens who look at one another and say, this is ours, all ours, the sidewalk and the car lanes, the boulevard and the highways. We can go where we want without feeling like second-class citizens beholden to the true masters of the city, the cars. For a moment, parents let themselves put aside the constant fear that a car will hit their kid in front of the house, and dog owners stop watching with hypervigilance over their dog Roxy, who has maybe escaped the leash. Pure air blows through the trees, the songs of the birds can be heard everywhere, and the hearts of men fill with warmth and goodwill," end quote. In fact, the streets fill with people, mostly kids on bicycles, taking over spaces that were never intended for people pedaling or walking. A state of affairs, the city spends a month, starting again in the Hebrew month of Elul, traditionally given over to repentance and reflection, to prepare, with bicycle riding workshops and courses on bicycle repair in community centers across the city. The papers report that 90% of all bicycles bought in Tel Aviv are bought during the, no chance, but I will try my best, are bought during the 10 days, during the Yamim Noraim, the 10 days leading up to Yom Kippur, and the city also runs programs for residents to give their old bicycles to the municipality, which fixes them up and gives them to kids who need them. Quote, "In this way, everyone benefits. You clear out a space in your home, the bicycles get a new life, and the kids who need them get bicycles so they can be like any other child." The net effect of all this, Daniel Mishori writes, is, quote, "a chance for an environmental cheshbon nefesh, a spiritual accounting, and an opportunity to understand the public square from new angles as an expression of an authentic and creative Israeli Judaism." Another way a Zionist and I think a Jewish imaginary is present in the city's approach to environment and sustainability is in the centrality of community and of the collective in the conception and implementation of environmental policy in the city. This is a difficult thing to argue persuasively because, of course, community is powerfully present in any conception and implementation of environmental policy most everywhere, and it's at the heart of the notion of sustainability itself. And yet, the centrality of the thing and the degree to which it is the constitutive principle, the keystone, the thing without which nothing else is intelligible in the environmental efforts of Tel-Aviv-Jaffa is extreme, and in its extremity, it reflects something that is distinctive about here, and maybe even sui generis. Collectives here are the main, almost the only unit of analysis for environmental policy in Tel-Aviv-Jaffa. Everything is about community. The biggest and the most expensive sustainability program in the city is one called Shchunot Mekaimot, Sustaining and Sustainable Neighborhoods, which subdivides the city into neighborhoods, hiring where possible from which within each neighborhood a community worker, hopefully somebody who was born in that neighborhood, training her or him, and then organizing a community roundtable to discuss the nature of the needs of the neighborhood, enlisting the residents of the neighborhood, training them. holding neighborhood roundtables, creating neighborhood plans, establishing a neighborhood center for environmental stuff, organizing community events, expanding the circle of resident participants, and so on. It would be hard to exaggerate the centrality of the notion of community and collectives in the conceptualization and the fashioning and implementation of policy and the municipality's vision of urban nature and its place in the lives of the city's residents. It'd be hard to exaggerate the work that community and collectives do. Consider the project in Tel-Aviv-Jaffa in the Shapira neighborhood by the Shkunot Mekaimot coordinator in the neighborhood, Feldmann-Kaye. Wait 1 second. Okay, it goes on, but we will move on for time. This project is being Lira Shapira is being replicated mutatis mutandis in a more wealthy neighborhood in the north of the city, Ma'oz Aviv, right now as we speak, and plans are to bring it to other neighborhoods as well. In it, you see the huge emphasis on the collective, the community, the social, which, of course, befits the paradigm of sustainability. Environment is economy, is society, and vice versa. But the degree to which this is true, and this is the thinking at the basis of all the environmental initiatives in the city, and the degree to which it alone is at the basis of all the environmental initiatives in the city is extreme. Initiatives like the Aronot Netina, the giving cupboards of which there are dozens in the city, in which people leave and take clothes, especially kids' clothes as they grow out of them so quickly. Or there are the libraries of things, where if you need a tool or a ladder or a toy or a service for 12 for a special occasion or a piano, there are places in the city you can go and get those things for free, as well as the bar tikkun, a fix-it bar, where your broken blender or bicycle or space heater will be fixed for free. Each of these things are meant to reduce consumption by unleashing the power of community to help its own. Consider, too, the new school programs that teach green values and practices, starting in the kindergarten up through high school, divided into 4 areas: urban nature, urban sustainability, wise consumption, and healthy and sustainable nutrition. Which programs start, first things first, with a rich unit on the commons and the common good, the first pedagogical goal of which is, quote, the student will identify at least 3 natural resources which are of the commons, and will explain why they do not belong to any one person, but rather to everyone. And then, quote, the student will understand the meaning of the tragedy of the commons, this beginning in the kindergarten, and describe how exploitation of common resources hurts all of society, end quote. And students will analyze examples of environmental injustice. And after that, we are off. I compared this curriculum to a popular environmental curriculum in North America, indeed the most popular, Project Learning Tree, and the differences were enormous. In the North American curriculum, there is emphasis on the autonomy of nature, on the rights of nature, but nature in Tel Aviv is never autonomous, and the independent value of nature is never a regulatory ideal, and its philosophical and moral status is never described in terms of rights, but rather ever and always in terms of community alone. And this fact finds expression in all sorts of ways, some of which you might see in any modern city, like the fact that unhoused cats or street cats or feral cats are here pointedly called chatulei kila, community cats, whose health and welfare and thriving in general are the responsibility of all of us. At the heart of the city's approach to urban nature is the creation of communities dedicated to each. There is a cat community, a hedgehog community, a butterfly community, a turtle community, and many more. And unlike many cities, people here in Tel Aviv are not allowed to keep bees like they do in Brooklyn or Berlin, but there is a community of beekeepers, and they tend the shared municipal hives after going through shared municipal training. These communities all have a municipal professional whose job it is to teach and coordinate and advise, and they are understood to be communities of the humans and of the animals together. Last Thursday, I was in a fact-finding mission about swifts in the city, because our swifts, who every 2 years come to nest in the city are finding with the promulgation of more and more big towers with glass fronts that they have no place to nest. And that is a problem for all of us in our community, the humans and the Swifts. I went into a kindergarten that is for children of migrants, okay, and there we find what you see in front of you. I will move to the end and say I gotta be modest here and own up to how partial. I mean, partially you didn't hear it all, but how partial what I've had to say here today is how not unfully formed it is. The engineering ethos of Zionism that led to the channelization of the Ayalon River is still strong and present in Tel Aviv. It's also important, as I said, that these things are hardly unique to Tel-Aviv-Jaffa or to a Zionist imaginary of urban nature. They surely exist in other forms in other places. But still, as the same poet Natan Levy once said, Yeshnan yafot yoter mimena ein yafa kamoa. There may be more beautiful places than she, but there is none who is beautiful like her. In the same way, Tel Aviv-Yafo, nothing you find in Tel Aviv-Yafo cannot be found in some form or another somewhere else, but still nowhere else bring these things together in the radical way that Tel Aviv-Yafo does. Of course, it is hardly a surprise to discover that the ecological imaginary of a place is deeply intertwined with its religious and spiritual imaginaries and its nationalist imaginary. As everywhere, spiritual and nationalist resources are among the deepest wells from which environmental consciousness and sustainability draw. But to see, as I do in day-to-day work, in meeting rooms at the city hall, in community centers and community gardens around the city, how dependably Jewish and Zionist resources are present, sometimes pressed explicitly into service, sometimes surfacing as if unsummoned, and to register the quotidian ways in which old forms and old ideas are in Tel Aviv transvalued, to borrow Berdyshevsky's borrowing from Nietzsche, it is the degree to which these values of community and this calendar are interpolated into everything that is done for the environment in Tel Aviv is the most surprising thing that I have seen in this city they call the first Hebrew city, of which it truly can be said, surely there are more sustainable cities than her, but there is no city that is sustainable like her. Thank you.